Duelists, it's finally happened. Konami just announced a brand new way for all of us to be able to play Yu-Gi-Oh! But what is it? How does it work? And most importantly, how can you get started playing it? Let's talk about it. Yu-Gi-Oh! Genesys is a brand new format coming from Konami themselves that aims to alleviate some of the problems people have with the modern TCG. One of the first things they highlight is who Yu-Gi-Oh! Genesys is for. They say it's for anyone who's looking for a less complicated version of Yu-Gi-Oh!, new or returning players, or even players who just have a favorite deck that isn't quite strong enough to be played in the modern TCG, which I think a lot of people can relate to at this point. The rules are actually pretty simple. Number 1, no Link or Pendulum monsters are allowed. I think a lot of players would agree that Pendulum monsters are around the time the game started getting extremely complex, and Link monsters after that just made it so any deck that can put bodies on the board can suddenly convert them into giant generic boss monsters with little to no effort. So taking these two away should lower the complexity as well as lower the power level of most decks and make games last a little bit longer. Number 2, there is no forbidden and limited list. Any card can be played at 3 copies except for Links and Pendulums. And before you freak out, this does run directly into point number 3. Deck construction uses a point-based system, with most cards being worth 0 points. However, more powerful cards can have any point value ranging from 1 to 100. With that in mind, the deck you create must have a main deck, extra deck, and side deck that does not go over the point cap for the event that you're attending. And last but not least, the standard point cap for Konami events will be set at 100 points. But local stores are welcome to run events with any point cap they want. Anything from 0 all the way up to 1,000. It's really cool that the format's this customizable so simply by just tweaking the total point value a deck is allowed to have. But that being said, I do see 100 point decks being the norm, since they've already announced they'll be supporting this format at YCS events in the Americas and in Europe. Not only will Genesys Invitationals be run at these events in the future, but they've even announced that there will be a full-fledged main YCS event that is run with Genesys format in North America in 2026. And for anyone who doesn't realize, that is a huge deal. They are really showing commitment to this new format and that they believe it will be one of the future ways to play Yu-Gi-Oh! For years to come. It is also worth mentioning that pretty much all of the Floodgate cards are on here at 100 points, so only 1 copy per deck, which I think is a good future-proofing idea to help keep the format light and fun. Now, this might sound a little bit scary at first because every card gets unbanned, but if you want to play super powerful spell cards like Cold Wave, for example, that's worth 100 points, meaning any other card on this list of about 500 really strong cards, you can't play with any of them at all. Is that worth just running 1 Cold Wave in your deck? I'd be inclined to say probably not. I think in general, the best strategy is going to be spreading your points out over multiple strong-ish cards that aren't completely game-breaking, but are still good enough that you want to play them, so that you aren't completely focused on just playing 3 Pot of Greeds that are worth 30 points each, and if you don't draw them, your deck basically does nothing. And I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Has had a problem for a long time where they have these generically strong cards that can be used by any deck, but if the strongest archetypes in the game are just also using these strong generic cards, then the weak archetypes that are using the generic cards don't really stand a chance. Now we kind of flip that on its head. If your archetype cards are worth a bunch of points on their own, suddenly you aren't able to play these strong staples. Whereas if you play an archetype that doesn't have any point values because it's not as strong, you can play all the busted spells or traps or hand traps, whatever you want. It's a little bit of an evening of the playing field, and we could see a lot of cool strategies come out from this format. There are a few strange parts on the list, such as Ash Blossom being worth 15. That makes a playset worth 45 points, which is half of your point value, which seems a little bit extreme to me, especially when you have cards like Ghost Ogre and Ghost Belle that are only worth 5 by comparison. I know Ash Blossom is a very good card, but is it that good? Then there's the Mulcharmy cards, which are worth 10, 7, and 5 points each, which seems a little bit low for how incredibly strong they are. Konami has also come out and said they will be updating this point list very regularly, about once a month or once every 2 months at worst, which is more often than we get updates to the Forbidden and Limited list. I assume it's probably because it's much easier to just raise or lower some point values based on what cards are seeing play or not seeing play, but I think that is a very, very important part of this announcement to know they're going to be looking at this and caring about it for the future. This is not a format that will just grow stale with the same decks forever. We're going to be able to play all kinds of different stuff. Konami also released a couple blog posts with this announcement that most people seem to be glossing over, so I'd like to highlight some of the key points. The first is their discussion on why they think a point system works well for Yu-Gi-Oh! Genesis instead of the usual Forbidden and Limited list, essentially saying that it's not individual cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! That are ever powerful, but mostly just become powerful in combination with other specific cards. The example they use is Painful Choice, which is worth 95 points, meaning you can't exactly combine it with any other powerful cards on the list. They also mention that they can dismantle any one-turn kill or first-turn kill combos by setting the card that's most responsible at 100 points and then setting the other combo piece, which is mostly innocent, at one single point. A card like Butterfly Dagger Elma is completely innocent on its own, it's only in combination with other cards that it becomes a problem. So giving it 1 point makes sense. Otherwise, they just highlight the deck building strategy that goes into making a Genesis deck. If you want to run 2 copies of Max C at 50 points each, you can, but you just have to know that the rest of your deck is all going to be worth 0 points combined, which could mean if you don't draw your Max C, you could be in a lot of trouble. But maybe sometimes that's a trade-off that's worth it. Who knows? And lastly, they have a really funny article talking about the fear of doing really well with your deck at an event and causing it to have more points assigned to it. Konami is very reassuring that if you come up with a unique deck and you win a YCS Genesis event with it, it will not cause those cards to get hit. Maybe if multiple other people pick up the deck after you win and suddenly it's running all the top tables, then you might see some points being assigned to specific cards. But otherwise, if you're a genius and you really figure out a way to play a deck that no one else can play just like you'll be totally safe. With the one exception being if you come up with some sort of FTK or OTK combo, and then yeah, you can probably expect at least one of those combo pieces to be set to 100 points. So, thanks a lot. So how can you get started with Yu-Gi-Oh! Genesis? Well, if you want to build a deck on your own, there is a deck builder on Konami's website that will count your point values for you as you go, so you know you're staying underneath the 100-point cap. Otherwise, they also mention that all of the WCQ Rivalry of Warlords side event decks that are posted on their website are also Genesis legal decks, so you can check those out as well if you want something more pick up and play as opposed to going through all the points yourself. And if you're looking for any of those Genesis staples that have been banned for the past 20 years, you can always check them out on Cardmarket. And if you need me, I'll be trying to make one of my personal favorite decks work again, being Ancient Gear, even though they gave Statue and Advance 33 points each. Come on, Konami. So crazy. Tell all your friends. Now's the time to play Yu-Gi-Oh!